Hello everybody and welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to be doing a 12 by 12 inch on canvas panel acrylic painting of an impressionist background, but this time we're going to be putting a figure in this. Going to be a beautiful sunlit meadow. So first things first, let's prepare the canvas as I normally do. With some gloss medium. I think a lot of beginners make the great mistake of just trying to paint straight onto a shop bought canvas, and then they find it very difficult. They wonder why acrylic painting is so difficult. Well, because it absorbs the paint so quickly. So you put something like a medium on like this to seal the pores of the canvas and the gesso. Let's just moisten it a little bit more now. Right, and we're going to give this some burnt sienna, only quite lightly. And just gently go over the entire canvas with that, so that we don't see any white of the canvas. You can add a bit more to this. If it's too light, just add a little touch more of the burnt sienna. We'll be going over the entire canvas with colours, so it won't matter too much. It's nice to paint on a coloured ground. Right, so we'll give that a chance to dry and come back in about 5 minutes. Okay, that's had about 5 minutes or so to dry. So now I'm going to get a smallish flat brush. I'm going to get some of this burnt sienna. Oops, I'm running out. And a tiny touch of Payne's grey. I'm just going to knock in roughly the anatomy. And it is rough, it's not accurate. We will amend things as we go along. It's just to give us an idea of the figure, like so. There'll be a little bit of a leg there. Right, now we can go a little bit more with the Payne's grey. Again, we're just knocking in basic shapes. Like that. Now if we come to the Payne's grey and white, that will give us a bluish tone. Payne's grey and white is a lovely blue-grey tone. So this is going to be the basic colouring of her dress. There's dark areas and light areas, and all this will be amended as we go along. Things will change, colours will change, tones will change the more we do. Like so. It's going to have quite a white area where the highlights are, where the sun's catching the figure. So almost exaggerated. That's it. That's all we need to do to the figure at the moment. And now we're going to go onto a fan brush and start to basically knock in the background. So it's a bit of Payne's grey, a bit of yellow ochre. We can come darker with it, get some more yellow ochre in there. In fact, what we'll do is we'll give the whole thing a little spray of misty water. And we'll come back to this Payne's grey and white to give more of a bluey tone here. And we can come quite dark with this now. Might just add a little bit of cadmium yellow to the Payne's grey. You've got to establish where your darks are, your darkest areas. This is going to be, this area is going to be nice bright meadow, so it'll be, I'll just finish this bit off here first. Let's just put some light in here first of all. This is just the first coat. We'll be going over with other coats of paint as well, so it will get nicer. Right, we now need to come to pure white and yellow ochre. And drag the paintbrush up so as it produces marks that are looking like grass. We add a little bit more of the yellow ochre as we come down. And even more. So it doesn't matter if you go over the figure, we'll be going over the figure even more in a bit. A bit of the cadmium yellow. With the Payne's grey. We can go quite dark with it in this other corner. So Payne's grey, touch of cadmium yellow. And then slowly bring more cadmium yellow into it. And then back to the yellow ochre to fade it into that area which has got the yellow ochre in. It's going to be quite impressionistic, remember, not that bothered about detail. Let's echo some of these colours up here. You can even go with a bit of white and yellow, cadmium yellow. To put some highlights in. Don't forget to echo. Whatever's up there will echo down here as well to harmonise the entire painting. Now, let's go back to the grey tone, the bluey grey tone, with a little bit of yellow ochre. Now back to the grey, or the bluey grey. Again, if it's not blending, just a quick spray of water will allow it to blend a lot easier. Now while we've got this grey, bluey grey, I'm just going to put some of these highlights back into here. some pure white here, where the light's just catching through. Again, we're not bothered about detail. I want the light to seem to be glowing around her, which is coming from here. So I'll add a bit more of that white up here. You can blend quite nicely with a bristle fan brush. It's quite soft. Of course, you do that again once it's dry, you go over that layer again, it'll be even smoother. Okay, so that's roughly the first coat. I think that hair has dried sufficiently to put some more in. So go back into that Payne's grey. In fact, we could add a touch of cadmium red to the Payne's grey. Okay, now let's bring a little bit of burnt sienna and that Payne's grey and white. We'll have a little bit of white. We will adjust this colour again in a bit as we go along. Okay, we'll let that layer dry now. So we'll give that 5 or 10 minutes and then let it dry. Okay, now that's had time to dry, ish, we've got to now refine the painting with the second layer. So a little spray of water, back to the fan brush, and to get some of this white, and this time a tiny touch of yellow. Well, it's transparent cadmium orange really. I'm just going to warm that up. Right, now we can come back to the Payne's grey and white with a little bit of the cadmium yellow. And also the grey, Payne's grey and white. Payne's grey with a little bit of the green. Whoops, too dark. Don't worry about it. You can adjust as you go. Come back to the Payne's grey and white. In fact, we can go even lighter here. and just start to feel the lighting, feel where the lighting is coming from. So when we've got that to that stage, we can then get a nylon fan brush and just start to blend it. And if you find that's not working, it's producing too many lines as that is, then what we need to do is get yourself a large brush, something like a 1-inch household brush, and just gently feather it together. And there, that's a beautiful, beautiful blended background. So now I'm just going to clean that brush. Make sure you keep these big brushes clean. Right. Right, now we're in that area. Let's use this large brush with the Payne's grey and a little bit of the cadmium yellow in there. I'm just going to hint at trees and bushes. A little bit lighter here. And using various grades of green, and try and change the colours of the greens as well, so that perhaps there's some warm ones and cool ones. It makes variety. It makes it much more believable. So to make it a little bit more warmer, we'll add a bit of cadmium orange to that. Like that. Now we come in with the white and yellow ochre. With the large brush, it's amazing what you can do with a large brush. It also makes the painting a lot quicker and easier if you use a large brush. Let's go in with the yellow ochre. Sorry, the cadmium yellow, sorry. And just add one or two little. We can come in with some cadmium orange as well. And get messy with it. Like that. Clean the brush. Put that to one side. Now, we need the bristle brush, the bristle fan brush. So what I'm going to do is get a mid green tone on here, and then just put something like bushes in here. You can actually come a little bit lighter and greyer over here. And then we can go in with the brighter yellow. Like so. Now, when we get some of this grey green here, I'm just going to put a few weed type elements in here, using the fan brush on its edge like this. Create some lovely impressionistic weeds or nettles. And then we can go a little bit lighter with that. Like that. And we can let that dry a bit. But first I think we'll just put some grasses in there as well. So I'm going with quite a light colour here, because I want to put some foreground grasses in. Get some of that cadmium orange in there to have a different tone, vary the colours rather. Have some warm and cool grasses. You could even have some grey ones, grey greens, for where the grasses are in shadow. Now, using my little worn round brush, we'll come in with those dark grey greens and just start to augment them with a few larger leaves. Right, so we need a bit more Payne's grey and cadmium yellow. Bit more Payne's grey. You can see how this starts to look like a little bank of weeds. And again, remember, you have to paint randomly. You get too many people when they paint, beginners especially, doing this. Too meticulous about the painting stroke, when in actual fact you should be just doing this. Fast, bold. Be bold with your brush strokes, and the faster you are, and the more you do it, the more you will develop the confidence in those bold marks and bold strokes, and produce a naturally random looking effect, which you can't do if you're doing it like this. You can't produce random. You've got to go fast. And again, like I said, some people may find this difficult to start with, but the more you do it, the more you'll develop your own little style in doing random stuff like this. It won't take long to develop. See, it's random. We'll come in with a few lighter areas. Let's get some white. I mean, you could go slow over the entire thing, but it would take you forever to do this type of thing. Now we'll go with Payne's grey and white. To produce a few little bluey greys in there, to show that there's some leaves in shadow that are just picking out a little bit of light. See, it gives that effect without actually doing all those leaves. You're just approximating it or giving the impression. Let's go back to our mid or small brush, if I can find it. Yeah, this one will do. Now we need to get this skin tone right. So we need to have some burnt sienna, some white, I think a little bit of yellow ochre, Now we need to have a darker tone for this side, which is going to be in shadow. This area here, which is in shadow, so we can come even darker still. Right. Right, we'll let that coat dry on the arms before we do any more to the skin tone. But what I will do is I'll now add another layer to the hair. Another dark layer of Payne's grey and cadmium red. Like that. So that we are building up that darker area. Like that. Starting to get there now, isn't it? Let's do the bit more to the dress now. So I can go with a little bit of a larger brush, slightly larger. And using Payne's grey and white. You notice we haven't used any blue in this entire painting. All we've used is Payne's grey. And because we're doing it with using it with the white, it can look blue without even having to try. Without using any blue at all. Okay, we've got a shadow area here. So we can come back to the lighter. The lighter grey. Each time we do this, we're doing a layer, and then we wait, let it dry, and then add another layer. We're building up all the time. Layers of interest. Like that. I think we need to go a little bit darker in certain areas. Like there's an area we're going to have her arm resting on her dress there, so that'll be a bit darker. This is going to be a bit where the dress is gathered in. We can go even darker in there. Then come out with a little bit more grey, just to blend that in. Then come up with a bit more light. Again, it's not blending too well. If you start to see the grain of the canvas, then it's not blending. See how it disappears once you give it a little waft of water. I think we'll also have a little strap there. We can come in with some quite bright whites here, with a little bit of the yellow, cadmium yellow or yellow ochre in there. Now I'm just going to let that dry for another few minutes before I do the next layer. Okay, that's had time sufficiently to dry, so we'll now get on with the next layer. So I'm going to do a little bit more to the figure, a little bit of spray of water. Now I need to put in these highlights around the edges again, so I'm using yellow ochre and white. I'm just putting in a highlight edge around the outer edge of the arm to show that the light's hitting it from that direction. Doesn't need to go all the way down, just here and there. That one's quite substantial because it's catching the light from that edge. We'll just add a little bit of a in there just to give her a bit of definition to that thumb. Right, now then, we need to do the same with this edge here. Oops, an easy. It's the beauty of acrylics, you can just go over any mistakes very easily. Right. If areas are too bright, just touch it with your finger while it's wet and it will just take it down sufficiently. Okay. Right, that needs to be a little bit brighter. So I'll get some pure white. Now I need to get some of this cadmium orange and white just to show a little hint of reflected light in there. We can go a little bit brighter with that. Now, we need to get some of this cadmium orange and a little bit of, just need to mix up an orangey colour, quite light really. Again, it's gone a bit dry, that area, so a little spray. Blend it with your finger if you need to. And come down with a little, the dark tone of the hair just makes a slightly lighter tone. Just to put in some ideas of how the hair is actually falling. I'm going to go over this in a bit just to make it look a bit more real. Right, that orange glow on the edge of the hair needs to be warmer. So cadmium orange, a hint of red just to fire that up a little bit. And again, just blend it in. Now, part of her hair is going to be shadow, so we need to have highlights within the shadow. So you need to make that from this grey tone that we've got, the Payne's grey and white. Like that. You can have one or two little hints of it here. Now, the same colour, slightly lighter, this grey tone, I'm going to put on her arm here and also here. I just need to delineate this a little bit better, this shape of the arm. Like that, that'll do, that'll do. Right, now I need to get that small brush back in with the arm colouring. So We need to come back in with the yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Now this side of the arm is going to get a little bit of a reflected light off her dress. Just there. As the light is coming in, bouncing off her dress and onto her arm. The same for here as well. A little bit lighter. There. Now that orange there, we need to make a little bit darker to add into that blue there, because just as the light is reflected onto her arm, so the arm is reflecting light onto her dress. Just a touch, just a little bit. Right, let's get a little bit of the light highlight colour, because there's a little bit just coming down there onto her leg. Only a little bit though. Let's get some pure white here. And again a bit more up here. That's that done. Now then, we need some more interest here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this kind of brush. We'll get some white and yellow ochre. Make it quite fluid. And a quick spray. Make it look a little bit more like grasses. More yellow ochre. That gives it that nice glow, that glowing effect. Now, we can start to add one or two little details now. So, first of all, I'm not quite happy with that background light. It needs to be brighter still. So with the yellow, ochre and white, in fact you could add a tiny touch of transparent cadmium orange. Now then, a little spray of water on the background, and this will just enable it get rid of most of the paint. Now what we can do is use a finger to blend. We'll have a bit of pure white. Like that. Now, I think it needs some foliage, some more foliage. So we're going to get a dark green, a little bit of brown into that to get a dark green effect, and we're going to have some cascading branches. Over the top of this background. Like that. Now, with the bristle fan brush, pick up some of the same colour, and just with the corner, I'm just going to add a few little darker leaves, just with the corner of it. We can have quite a dense area here, I think. Right. Now we're going to go with a lighter colour with the cadmium yellow. Again, just with the corner. Like that. Now a lot more of the white in with that cadmium yellow. We're going to get quite bright. Doesn't want a lot. You could use some of this same colour just to break up the outline of this and make a little bush here. If you make a little area there, instead of a line going straight across, if you've got an area like this, you could build it up slightly higher than this, than the horizon of this field here. That stops your eye going out the painting, and the same for this side. And that brings your eye back in to the painting. Let's just add a little darker element to that here. Okay. Okay, now while we have these bright colours on the palette, I'm going to get the bright leaf colour that we've just been using and just add one or two little leaves just to augment what's been put there randomly. We can actually physically control a little bit better rather than going random with it. This time we can use a little bit more care and attention. Not too much though, not too much. In fact, we'll go back in with a darker tone as well and do something similar. We'll go a bit darker actually. Let's get some Payne's grey, cadmium yellow. So you see how we're going random again with this. Got a little bit more Payne's grey. We're going a bit darker. Let's go with some of the mid-green tone. We can actually come a little bit more yellowy and lighter, just a little bit. This is where the light is being picked up on the leaves. We can go almost pure white as we get to the outskirts of the leaves, like that. Now, in this bottom area, it's a bit too uniform this is, so I'm going to give a little squirt. Come in with those darker tones again. I'm going to put one or two little things, little stems like this. This just creates little weeds of interest. Weeds of interest. I may have coined a new phrase there. Let's hope so, eh? So like that. I think we just have one or two little grasses here, just to create a little bit of interest over that side. Okay, now we go with pure white. Because these have a white top to them, so the light's being caught on the top of them and is really showing off the white part of the weed. Now we can have one or two little dots of light where the light is being caught. We can even come in with some pure yellow here, just to create some areas of colour. You can even come in with some orange. Like that. And while I've got this orange, I think I'll sign my name down here. In a second. A light spray, very, very light spray. Now I've just noticed that the light on the edge of her hair is still not quite bright enough, so we need to get some of the white, some of the cadmium orange, and add a little bit of that yellow to it there. A little spray, and then a little bit of an adjustment with the finger. We'll have some around here like this. This needs to be more white around here with cadmium, with some yellow ochre, of course. This has got to be a little bit more haphazard around here. That's better. Get some pure white. There we go. You could keep going with this and doing more and more detail if you wanted to. I don't particularly want to, but what I will do, just delineate one or two little grasses in here, so it doesn't look too uniform. And there we are, that's done to my satisfaction anyway. I could go on further and further with it, but I'll leave it as it is. So that's it. That's an impressionistic, it's not detailed, it's impressionistic landscape painting with a figure, a woman walking through a meadow, a beautiful sunlit meadow. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this painting, and I look forward to any questions or comments you have. And I hope you can join me on my next painting video. So until then, happy painting!